Fogarty, Mike Edwards, Phil McCallan, Dave Jeffries, John McGuinness, Ian Hutchinson and Glenn Irwin. However, will it be a Finnish rider who wins for the very first time at the Macau Grand Prix? Erno Kostamo, who we just saw in the picture, fastest in every session so far.
On this. There's way too much oil for me. Whereas there's too much oil. The whole track's full of oil. The whole track.
Doesn't sound good from Sheridan Moraes. So Sheridan Moraes, who's on the front row of the grid, clearly not happy with the state of the track. We've had 2 car races already. Now whether that is a sentiment that is shared with the other riders, we'll wait and see. We just saw Rico Penskoffer in the sunglasses. 3 of his bikes on the front row, or 3 of his bikes that are backed by him. This is row 2, Rob Hodson on the RCS Express Kawasaki, backed by Databet. They've committed to a 5-year sponsorship deal. Perhaps a surprise to see him on row 2. He's been here before. It's got a Dunlop 1 compound and a 0 rear. And alongside him, Danny Horn, his main man. Danny's been here with many riders in the past. Came here first time in 2012 with Dave O'Johnson, the Australian rider. So he's got plenty of knowledge, Rob, to draw on. Another regular for Macau, Andre Perez. Happy on row 2. He's been improving throughout. Happy with his setup. He's using a hard front KR3 and a soft KR1 on the back. He, like Rob Hodson, one of the few Dunlop shod tyres. Here is Julian Trummer. Pirelli chosen to go for a soft tyre, but still not satisfied that it's the right option. May go hard for race 2, depending on how this one goes. And Lauren Hoffman, he had some broken sensor issues yesterday, which is shutting down the dashboard and would then reboot, but he's replaced it, so problem solved. He says he's still struggling to find a line around Melco, and he's not used to starting on row 3, such as his pedigree in the IRRC series. He's on a soft front and a medium rear. We just saw Camille Holland on the Kawasaki. He too is on Pirelli. 26 is Paul Williams. And here is Camille Holland on the Kawasaki. 29 is Timothée Monod. Right at the back, but still happy. He's had a few little issues to get through. And here, the first female racer at Macau with an all-female team as well, Nadia Schutz. She's really progressed as each session has gone along. She's really happy with the way things are going. However, this man, you've got to feel for Joey Thompson. I think he was expecting a lot better. However, he has had some issues with the bike. It's hindered his progression on his Macau debut. Plenty of supporters back home will be cheering him on. No spectators around the 3.8 mile long circuit, except for here at the start finish and at Lisboa. You can watch from the high rises, of course. Last 20 years, it's really been split in terms of tyre winners, the victors. 11 wins for riders on Metzlers or Pirellis, and 9 on. But we have a Pirelli Metzler front row, a couple of Dunlop shod riders on row 2.
Attention on the grid. Attention on the grid. GP bikes, there will be a short delay to the start of this race.
Well, I'm sure you're picking that up at home. The dulcet tones of George Munro, the voice of Macau. And I just wonder whether that's because of the comments from Sheridan Moraes that there was a fair bit of oil down on the track, not happy about the surface, and looking for some cement coming down. So it's one of those where we'll have to wait and see how long the delay will be. Who knows? Sheridan Moraes certainly been very pleased with the way he's Macau experience has gone so far. So too this guy, David Datzer, really, really, really looking good. He too is, well, he's the fastest newcomer here. Riding number 55, the German, International Road Racing Championship regular. He's been going very soft on his tyre compounds on Metzler's and BMW. And here is Rob Hodson. He slipped off here in the past back in 2018. But Rob has got to somehow find a couple of seconds on Erno Kostamo. The rest of the field have, in fact. That looked to be Lucas Mora, just sat on the side. It's very hot here at Macau, so he's shade, but even in the shade it's really, really hot. Nervous, tense moments for these riders, of course, and especially with the delay as well. That just doesn't help, does it, to the way they're feeling. So anyway, as I said, Metzler and Pirelli have won 11 times in the last 20 years. The last Metzler victory was Peter Hickman. Andre Perez has been here before, so he knows what this is all about. The last Dunlop winner was Glenn Owen back in 2018. I mentioned Robert Dunlop earlier as well. It was amazing, really, that Joey Dunlop never won at Macau. He did race here. Robert did back in 1989. And his sons Michael and the late William both rode here only once, actually. And you can see there, that's what's the delay at Lisboa, the exit at Lisboa. So they're putting down that quick dry solution. Yeah, Michael and William only rode back in 2011. Michael Dunlop was on Paul Bird's ZX10 back then. It wasn't a factory machine, I seem to recall. This man is calmness himself, isn't he? Erno Kostamo. All finished team as well, riding for Pens 13. William Dunlop, I recall, was on the Wilson Craig bike that day as well, but they finished outside the top 10. The Macau Grand Prix beginning back in 1967 for motorbikes, a single 30-lap race in those days. It then became a two races back in 1979, 15 laps on each occasion. And the way they used to do it was 2 legs, and the winner, the overall winner of those 2 legs, was declared the overall winner of the Macau Grand Prix. It became a 1-race affair in 1995, 15 laps though still. Recent years that came down to 12 laps. It will be the shortest ever run distance. Well, certainly scheduled anyway. 8 laps, the race distance. We have had some shortened in on the full distance. David Datzer, I can't tell you how happy and relaxed the German is ahead of this. He's looked really comfortable on his debut in Macau. But he has, as I was saying, race distance. But this first race, unfortunately, whoever wins it won't go down as this year's Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix winner. That will be determined by the outcome of race 2. And if you may think that's a little unfair, perhaps, it's a similar situation at road races at Northern Ireland, for example. You'll have 2 superbike races where the Northwest 200 race winner is the second race. And it was the same with the Ulster Grand Prix. The winner of the second Ulster Grand Prix superbike race was declared the winner of the Ulster Grand Prix. Yeah, I remember Rob Hodson, I mentioned he had a little crash. Actually, that was back in 2019 at the Solitude S's, which red flagged the race. And then on the restart, it was red flagged again when Erno Kostamo crashed at that narrow right-hand turn at Police. Unfortunately for not just him, but a few other riders as well, 5 of the riders went down. Remember Derek Shields and Michael Sweeney being 2 of them. A couple of the foreign riders as well. I can't remember the top of my head who they were. But Rob Hodson made his debut back in 2018. So did Erno Kostamo. And we've had some really classic races back in the past. Even though he was out in a class of his own, Kevin Schwantz in 90 on the factory Suzuki RGV 500, wheeling his way to victory over Peter Robato and Robert Dunlop. The footage is out there online if you want to check it. This man, the cool Finn in the hot Macau sun. That was me. I'm pretty sure I'd be, the sweat would be coming off my temple at this moment, but he has been coolness himself, Erno Kostamo. The last non-British rider to win, Andy Hoffman back in 1997, Didier de Radiguez in 1991, Kevin Schwantz in 1988, as I just mentioned, over Peter Robato and Robert Dunlop. Will Erno Kostamo join that list? I was talking about classic races and performances. Of course, Ian Hutchinson, even though he didn't win in 2011, finishing third after that almost career-ending crash at Silverstone at the end of 2010.
Well, depending what time it is, like early morning at home, wouldn't it? Be up for 8-ish.
Just earwigging a little bit of what's going on with Rob Hodson and Danny Horn alongside him. So Danny Horn's been coming to Macau for many, many years. They've been trying out a few little things on the Kawasaki. They did have, they did try a new fuel map, but during warm-up earlier on today, they decided it wasn't any better, so they've gone back to where they started. But motorbikes, of course, and I've just been racking my memory to try and remember. I'm pretty sure we have had a row 3 winner in the recent past. Someone going from row 3 into the top step of the podium. The cars, it tends to be really, you do have to be on the front row if you're going to win. Not so much for the bikes, you have to get such a good start. And look how tight that turn is. It doesn't look like that on the camera angle as it swings round, but you can see they're really going straight towards the wall. So nice and relaxed in the shoots camp. And you can see the names on the fairing. People have been able to pay £25 to fund Nadia's trip to Macau, and in return she's been putting their names, and they've been riding along with her so far. And I think even if there is any space, if you go to her Instagram account, you can donate there. In fact, I see some of the riders. There's Camille Holland walking up to the front. I don't know if they're having a bit of a team photo perhaps, or riders photo I should say, or a little discussion amongst one another. So there is a delay if you've just joined us. We heard Sheridan Murray, the Portuguese rider, who's starting on the front row, not too happy after the sighting lap with the amount of oil that was down, especially at Lisboa. So they've been putting down some dust to try and mop that up and make the surface acceptable for racing.
Right. After the 2 warm laps, there is the yellow flag and slow you guys down. Sorry.
It sounds like they're going to have 2 warm-up laps. They're going to have 2 sighting. So further instruction is going through this. This is why we saw them coming together. They're at the front there. So, and safety has to come first. Safety is paramount at Macau. I'm sure the riders will be happy with this. So just trying to pick up what's going on. Sighting laps, and then they'll come back in. This, of course, will add a delay, but Macau, as we've become used to in the past, is pretty much about delays.
Yeah, I understand. Can we switch? one car session and then motorbikes?
Tomorrow in the morning.
Or now one session of cars and then motorbikes.
It sounds as if maybe there might be a car race. Now, I'm reading between the lines here, folks, so please bear with me. But I think we could have a car race before the motorcycle first race because of the situation with the track surface, which has caused the delay here at Macau. So that's just trying to pick up on what the was being spoken about just now on the front of the grid. So there are certainly different options, but it might just be as the time ticks on. However, what I don't think you can do is bring a race forward, because certainly it wouldn't be fair on the car drivers if they're expecting to go at the time that the next car race is due to go. I'm not too sure what time the next car race is due. Oh, well, we're just getting information has been reduced from 8 laps to 7.
If possible, I start. The reason why I said possible, I'm very much depend on the first two rows. Right. After the 2 laps, if you are not happy, then I can race.
So there we go. So they're going to get of the racetrack, and if they're not happy,
Will be the same. After 2 laps will be the same. The path of a motorbike tire, it's so little.
Okay.
You know?
I'm trying, okay, but if you guys are not happy, I can't race, all right?
so we may not have a Macau Grand Prix. Now, maybe that's just the way a non-native English speaker is saying that they would cancel the motorcycle race. What he may mean is they may postpone it. He said cancel, but I would say perhaps that they may postpone it to a different time. They have got an option to run again tomorrow, I believe. Whether there is...
If you decide to go ahead with the race, will be 8-lap race as well, or 7 laps?
2 warm-up laps. Stop here. If you guys not happy with the condition of the track, raise your hand. I'll cancel them. Okay? If you guys happy with the track, the race only 7 laps. I give you
So there we go,
extra
folks.
warm-up lap, so I have to cut 1 lap. All right?
So it's up to the riders, really. And to be honest, if it was me, that's how I would be thinking. It's got to be the riders have to make the decision. And if they don't want to race, it all depends on the riders. So we're going to have 2 laps, 2 sighting laps. And then it's up to the riders if they're happy or not. So when they come back in after 2 laps, if their hands go up, then that will mean no racing for now. Whether there is a gap in the schedule to move things around, who knows? Maybe we may only get 1 motorcycle race this year, but hey, 1 motorcycle race is better than no motorcycle racing, especially not having had any bikes at Macau since 2019. It's actually, the interesting thing is, as well perhaps, is the mindset. Sheridan Murray was certainly the most vocal about the track conditions, and Sheridan Murray is a rider who comes from a short circuit background. So therefore, whereas, now I'm not saying just because of the road races are a different breed, but maybe Sheridan Murray is just thinking more like a short circuit racer, perhaps, someone who's more used to racing on street circuits or closed roads. But then that is up to them. Sheridan may just be the only one who comes back round and puts his hand up. Who knows? Again, all speculation on my behalf. But certainly when they came in, he was the one that was the most vocal that we saw. Other riders like Kostamo, it looks like Kostamo in pole position. He looked ready to race. So did Rob Hodson just behind him. In fact, everybody looking happy. The only one that we could see from the pictures, not to say that he was the only one, but Sheridan Murray, bike 32. So the situation is they'll do 2 sighting laps, and if they do decide to race, then it will be over 7 laps the race distance. Because of course, just like anywhere else in the world with street circuit racing, these are closed public roads, and the public will expect those roads to be open at 6 o'clock tonight local time. People do have to get home from work, etc. I mean, they have a fantastic system here. Life goes on, as you can see, just meters away from the racetrack. So a little bit of controversy if you are just joining us here. The riders, one or two of the riders, not happy with the state of the track after the 2 previous car races that we had. There's a lot of oil down, especially around Lisboa. So they're going to have 2 sighting laps going around. When that's going to be, I'm not too sure. Whether there's still work going on the racetrack, that's the only thing I can assume. We did see pictures from Lisboa a few moments ago. They were still working away there, but you would imagine that was a short while ago. But there doesn't seem to be any sense of urgency on that grid right now. In fact, a few of the riders still with their helmets off. If we do go racing, I may as well tell you how they're lining up. Erno Kostamo, the Finn, on the BMW. 2 minutes 28.2 in pole position. Alongside him on the front row, and almost 2 seconds slower during qualifying, David Datzer, newcomer to Macau, also on a BMW. Completing row 3, Sheridan Murray on a Honda, 2:31.7. So he is almost another 2 seconds slower than Datzer. So around 3.5 seconds covering the front row. So somehow, somewhere, if we do go racing, those other quick guys have got to find 2 or 3 seconds on Kostamo. Row 2, maybe somewhat of a surprise to see Rob Hodson there. We would all have expected him, especially as only one of 3 riders, I think 4 riders, sorry, that have been here before. He certainly would have said at the start of the week that he would have been ahead of the likes of Datzer and Murray, but they're still finding their way. And also, you know, they have a very experienced team at Dafabet, Danny Horn alongside Rob Hodson. Rob's had a great year, especially on the roads. And it's not all about taking pole position, but it's all about being in a position to get a good start, of course. Here is Sheridan Murray. So again, we're going to have another conflab. Maybe we're going to see or hear what's going to be said. Just waiting for a few more riders, etc., to turn up, I think. This doesn't help with the schedule for the rest of the day, of course, unless they decide not to race this. So unfortunately, unless the camera can go around the other side, or perhaps no, the camera's just zooming in. So all we can judge here, folks, is body language. We can't actually hear what's being said. Sheridan Murray, the only one with his helmet on, and he's ready to go. But he was the one who was most vocal, of course. So the situation is being explained to the riders.
Don't stop. To the left. When you come back, stick the left back out. Okay? Good. So, don't take change, please. I'm not happy with
What is the plan? Later today or tomorrow?
no more race one. Okay?
I think, listening to that, there's not going to be a Motorcycle Grand Prix for first race.
3 minutes now. Okay?
Or maybe there is. It sounded like they said they weren't going to come back. Oh, they were going to come back? So a little bit of confusion here on the grid, folks. And we can only work with what we're being given. but no bikes are being wheeled off. Helmets are indeed going on, so perhaps we are going to get 2 sighting laps. This does, of course, affect the schedule. We were due to go 25 minutes ago. That's Rico Penskoffer, head of the Pens 13 team, chatting away to David Datzer. Well, it all adds to the drama, doesn't it, folks? So we've got 3 minutes to the start of the warm-up lap, whether that's 1 lap or 2. So Sheridan Murray just chatting there with Rico Penskoffer. Rob Hodson just in the background. So yeah, we've got Kostamo in pole, Datzer alongside him, Murray completing row number 1. Row 2, Rob Hodson. So a minute and a half to go. Just hearing Lucas Mora on the Kawasaki on row 2, 2 minutes 31.8, just a shade off Hodson's time. Andre Perez, 2:33.7, completing row number 2. And then Julian Trummer heads row 3 on 2:33.8. He's, in fact, I mentioned earlier about Yamaha. Yeah, he's, of course, he's on a Yamaha, so perhaps, even though he is on row 3, Raul Torres 2:35.4 on the Honda. Lauren Hoffman on the BMW 2:35.9. Row 4, Camille Holland alongside him Paul Williams, both in the 2:36s. Then Joey Thompson 2:39.2, number 74. And at the back of the grid, Nadia Schutz on the Kawasaki. And Timothée Monot, who's had issues, unfortunately, with the bike. So there we go. George Monroe confirming that it is 2 warm-up laps. And quite a few oil flags out as well by the looks of things. So it's going to be a very tentative 2 laps around the gear circuit. It won't affect fuel, of course, unless they're setting off now. There goes the green light, so they should be okay in terms of fuel. It depends how precise they're being with the fuel. I don't know if they would be allowed to stick any more fuel in their tanks. Certainly would expect them to have enough for a couple of warm-up laps and 7 race laps as well. So here is, you see the oil flag being waved as they tiptoe around, just where you can see all the work was being done earlier. So they'll be feeling that now, seeing how the rear works as they come around through these tricky sections. What movement is going through the rear, and whether they're happy with the bike's performance. Certainly with a track like the circuit, any element of risk has to be removed. So again, we're coming up to, we should be seeing some more oil flags shortly as well, I think. Not too sure though. I mean, I'm assuming that we will go racing. However, if they're certainly not happy, they'll either come in, put their hand up, or just go straight down back into pit lane. All depends really in terms of how many riders they need for a race. If one says he's not going, whether he'll just be allowed to, or she, if it's Nadia, of course, whether they'll just let them sit this one out. And this is where it is, it's Melko. And that does, I can understand why Sheridan Murray was not very happy when he came in on the end of the original warm-up lap about the surface, certainly at Melko. There's been a lot of work taking place down there. Lots of oil has gone down. We'll get to have another look at it again, which I think is very sensible. You certainly want 2 laps. Because if there was something that you weren't too sure about first time around, you could see for yourself second time around. And then the correct decision can be made. Kawasaki ahead of Erno Kostamo on the BMW. Rob Hodgson is there as well on the Kawasaki. Last Kawasaki winner, Stuart Easton, I think, back in 2014, was it? Indeed it was, on the ZX-10. Hickman, the last winner on Dunlop. Rutter, the last winner on Metzler's. Stuart Easton, of course, lap record holder. So they're on their second warm-up lap around the gear circuit. And a lot of the riders have been saying how bumpy the track is. All of the riders that have been here before, in fact all of them, saying they find the circuit very, very bumpy. You see on the Exeter Police there, again more oil dust is down. Cement. In recent years we have had a couple of controversial endings, certainly in the Motorcycle Grand Prix. I can't remember when we had a controversial start. So here we go. Read the body language, folks. So hands up from Murray. Hands up as well from Raul Torres. Now whether that's hands up, they're not happy, but there was a couple of thumbs up there from some of the riders. So they're making their way back onto the grid. So a hand up still from Torres. I would suggest that he is not happy. So Torres on bike 49, the middle of row 3. And here they go again. So red flags. So I would say that looks to be it in terms of a first Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix race. Sorry folks, I'm just as much in the dark as you are at the moment as to what is going on. So we're going back round again. That's a wave to the crowd from Lucas Moura. In fact, big crowd at Lisboa. That's Paul Williams is coming in. Well, that's the fastest man in every session so far, Erno Kostamo. He looked like he was ready to race when they came in on the initial warm-up lap. So I think the next race action we're going to have on the gear circuit will be of the four-wheel variety. So there we are, race one session will not be resumed. The question remains, will they have a race one, or will they just go straight to a race two later on today? So if you've stayed up, folks, if you're on that part of the world, in Europe, where it is around just gone 3 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in mainland Europe. So very disappointing for the riders. They've been so looking forward to this.
Attention in the pit lane. Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix 54th edition.
So they've been really looking forward to racing, and the sessions have been fantastic. It's almost as if they've not been away, the bikes. We've had uninterrupted sessions so far. Everything has pretty much gone to plan. However, safety comes first, especially that of the riders. As I mentioned, there's no spectators. You might have the odd, you see a few waves from the buildings on the side, on the outside of the Macau hairpin. Spectating is only allowed in 2 parts of this 3.8-mile long circuit. That's at Lisboa. And also on the start-finish, you happen to be privy to a fantastic view from one of the high-rise buildings dotted around this racetrack. So they're going to come in now straight down into pit lane. There is Rico Penskopper closest to the camera. He's back to us now. So when we find going on for sure, folks, it may be me, it may be David Allison or Alan Hyde who may provide that information for you. But we are still due to go racing in around 4 hours' time for the motorbikes again. So some work still taking place out on the course, but from me, folks, I think that is it for now. Bike still coming back into pit lane, so not what we were anticipating at all, really, was it? So a wee bit disappointing, of course. Whether that will affect the schedule or not remains to be seen. 7:10 is that's UK time. So 3:10 this afternoon is when, I'm just going to see if we can find out this earwig again.
They didn't come in, stayed out. What's the later thing?
Why not?
So maybe there may be a split feeling amongst the riders here. So some riders not happy, some riders happy. But isn't that the nature of racing, folks? You can't keep everybody pleased all the time. So I've been told that race one will not happen. So it will just be a single Macau Grand Prix race. Andre Perez. Well, the motorcycles may not have been providing the entertainment we were expecting, but Andre Perez is certainly, if you look at Nadia Schutz, certainly keeping the crowd entertained from trackside. And you can tell by the umbrellas how hot it is out there on track. So the situation is, folks, race one will not happen. We will have an 8-lap Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix. That's in just under 4 hours from now, schedule permitting. We've got some car racing still to come, of course. Oh, so it's all not... Again, the debates will rage on and on. Julian Trummer and David Datzer. Again, plenty of shrugging of shoulders. Some would have been happy, I would imagine, to have gone out on that track. Some obviously clearly not.
And even going like 2 miles an hour and the hairpin's like
Yeah, Nadia Schuetz saying that, I was talking to her earlier in the week, she was saying how she was not coping too well, but she was struggling to find the right line around the Melco hairpin. She did just kiss it on the way out. Just trying to listen to what the riders are saying. However, they're